Hello everybody, it's great to be back here again. We've had some interesting stuff today, some of it slightly serious, some of it not so amusing, so we're going to try and lighten things up a bit with a lively debate, I hope. Last year's was a great debate about whether blockbusters are here to stay or gone. I think we decided that today that Sean reaffirmed that blockbusters are great, budget's great, but the sort of bulge in the middle is probably short-lived. So today the proposition is, this House believes that the future of gaming lies in game creators dealing direct with consumers without the intervention of publishers. Right. So I think this is going to be a fantastic debate. Now the way this works is that you're going to have two proposing the motion, two opposing the motion. The main proposer will get 4 minutes to kind of try and give them the benefit of their wisdom, so try and provide a good argument, hopefully with some humour. Obviously they'll lie, and they'll try to give out some sort of dubious statistics that they've just made up, trying to convince you, the audience. Then the main opposer will have their chance, then the supporting proposer, and then the supporting opposer. You guys will have a chance for 30 seconds to just talk at them rather than ask them questions, and then we'll have a vote, and hopefully it'll go in the right way. So, without further ado, let me introduce my panelists. For proposing the motion, leading off, first out the trap will be Nicholas Lovell, not Nick Lovell as I used to know him. Obviously he's getting far more serious these days, although I do know that he's not always serious. At Games Horizon, not long ago, he was given a task by one of the people in the audience to try and get the word meatloaf into his speech, which he managed to do without anybody noticing, so well done for that. Also helping him, can we have a round of applause, please? Thank you. Supporting Nick will be wonderful Igor, who we just heard from, who's going to tell us even more. I mean, he's a living example of why the proposition's probably going to win. No, I don't want to bias the audience in any way. Sorry. So, big hand again for Igor. He's on his way to Milan from New York via Edinburgh, so he's done us proud to be here today. Opposing the motion will be living legend, former Life President, no that was me, sorry, President, CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment Europe. He's also been obviously involved with the festival here. He's a living legend, he's a really nice guy, he's wise, his wisdom, he makes me look young, which is great because not many people do. He plays blues in a band. I even played blues with him in a band not long ago. We were pretty bad, but we enjoyed it. We all know who he is. Big hand for Chris Deering. Helping him to oppose the proposition with some rather suspicious looking shoes. We have Ren Reynolds, who does lots of stuff about emerging technology, writes about it, blogs about it. What he doesn't know is not worth knowing about. He's self-confessed, he says it looks like a reject from Run DMC. Big hand please for Ren. Thank you. So without further ado, off you go, Nick, and I'm counting.
Okay. I was told I had 7 minutes. I have 4. I'm either going to have to drop one of my 3 points or my jokes. We'll see which one happens as it goes. I think I'm going to start by saying that Paul Hayden stole my thunder. I think we just have to wait. If you follow the trend of that market value, they're all going to be dead. I mean, they've lost 55 billion in value. It's all over. Publishers have no place between game creators, or indeed any content creators, and consumers. Why not? Let's take a big step back and look at what publishers do, all publishers. They used to do something really insanely difficult. They got hard copy content in front of consumers. Pick newspapers for a moment. Just think how hard it is. Take all of these that happened yesterday, write it up, in some cases make it up obviously, print it, distribute it, and have it in front of all of us, 60 million people, at newsagents at 6 AM every morning. That's an insanely difficult thing to do. And now I, on my own, with Games Brief, can write a story on the demise of real-time world and get lots and lots of people reading it instantly just because I wrote it. The distribution problem that publishers exist to solve has gone, and so you don't need them. You can talk directly to your consumers. So that's the first point. Distribution is no longer a problem. The second point is that back in that days of distribution, it was entirely sensible for publishers to take lots and lots of money. And they did. An author, I am one, I have a book here which I'm going to wave at you. My book.
No self-promotion, please.
Sorry. I wasn't even asked to do that one. So
which was it?
I have a book, it's a discounted £40 price if you catch me afterwards. It was really, really difficult to get that sold in shops previously. I did it myself. And because it was so difficult, an author would get about £1 of the 10% of the cover price of a book. Typically, a newsroom would cost 15% of the total cost of a newspaper. You might think that games don't fit this model. Infinity Ward had a $50 million budget for the development of Modern Warfare 2. At launch, Activision spent $200 million on the marketing, distribution and promotion because they had to shift physical copies. If you didn't need to shift physical copies, they wouldn't have needed to have 80% of the money spent on that. 80% of the money means 80% of the stuff you created, they trouser. Now, they were adding value in the old physical world. It was really difficult to do. It isn't anymore, in my view. You can distribute digitally. It is much, much easier. It's still hard. Discovery is still a problem. You don't need publishers for discovery. You can do that, as we've already heard Michael talking about, on his own. How am I doing for time?
Pretty spectacularly mediocre. But
good.
Can I just interrupt with one thing? This is just a little timeout.
Okay.
Yeah, Modern Warfare sold about 20 million units. How many copies of your book have you sold?
But the point is there a need for there to be a... But that's not fair, but never mind. Is there a need for somebody to sit between the content creator and between the content consumer? And I would contend that the world would be a much happier place if creators were talking directly to the consumers rather than through the medium of Bobby Kotick. Anyway, if we move on to the third point, and I'm intrigued by Ian totally changing the rules of engagement. The third point is the most important one. Publishers are the most spectacularly risk-averse people that you can imagine. And yet, and this is a very, very weird combination, they take financial risks that make me just tremble and quiver with fear. They spent $250 million on the launch of that one game. It turned out to sell 20 million copies. It was a brilliant, brilliant financial risk. On the other hand, Midway's, having been bought by Warner, just cancelled a $43 million development project. This is Vegas. I think quite rightly that they've had to spend another $200 million on distribution. Those are enormous, insane risks. If you're taking an enormous, insane risk, why would you take a creative risk? I mean, the financial risk you're taking is just mind-boggling. So what you have to do is you have to close down all of those creative options. You can't try, fail and iterate. What you have to do is focus group and focus test and limit and chase yet another first-person shooter with, as Sean called it, men with pockets and pockets full of weapons, in order to keep making the same game because you know it sells, because you're not brave enough. No, because the model doesn't exist to enable you to spend just $500,000, $100,000 to make a game and see if it works. And if it does work, then throw money at it. Why doesn't it exist? Because the infrastructure, the world is built around it all being day one launch, physical products which are expensive and difficult to distribute. But you don't need to. That's why we don't need publishers anymore. To be fair to Ian, I could have done a much, much better job of publishing my book than I have. I could have sold a lot more copies. I wouldn't have made more money. And that, I think, is the end point about why content creators do not need publishers anymore. They should be talking directly to their consumers.
Thank you very much. Big hand there. And in the blue corner, Mr. Cripp. No. We want the counter argument, please. So, which one of you two fine warriors is coming up? Okay, Ren.
Try and stand up. So yeah, I mean, I actually had about 4 minutes of disclaimers. Firstly, I was told I couldn't use PowerPoint, and I just had to use a force of my personality, which is difficult because I haven't really got any personality. I just have very loud shoes, and I'm disappointed from the ankles up. And also, as a consultant, I'm physically incapable of talking to more than 2 people without PowerPoint. And lastly, I'm not an industry heavyweight. I'm an academic and policy person. I'm sort of a benign growth on the side of the games industry, which kind of brings me on to game publishing. Now, I'm not saying you should like game publishers. I'm saying that they're useful. And in fact, I think you should think of game publishers like the Liverpool Road from Dad's Army, if anyone's old enough to remember that. And I had an amusing slide of him, which I would have shown you. The things I think that game developers should focus on developing great games, and not all the really unpleasant tasks. I mean, as game developers, you know, there are lots of inessential things you don't do, like you don't create your own scripting languages. Well, okay, maybe that's a bad example, but you know, you do outsource core things like art and physics, and there are lots of things you don't even think about. You don't make the tables. You don't create your own PCs. You don't clean the toilets. And it's unessential tasks like this that publishers are really, really useful for. There's always some technology that comes along which is going to save the industry. So the latest is cloud, and we all know cloud is powered by unicorns and rainbows, and it's fine if you've got a small site. It'll do everything for you, but the problem is, what if you get really big? I mean, has anyone tried to create a high availability cluster on Amazon, for example? You know, it doesn't do hardware load balancing, you can't do virtual IPs, esoteric stuff, and I don't even know what those words mean. So, and also because we're in a cinema. Now, you know, what is a cinema? It's a machine for selling popcorn. And the games industry too, you know, it's diversified. You know, there's figurines, mouse mats, posters, thongs. Well, okay, that's just postal, and again, I have another amusing slide of that you might have seen. But there are lots of things that game developers just don't need to think about. They should be thinking about making good games. You know, and you know, we talk about dealing directly with punters, but the thing is, do punters really want to deal direct with you? Do they know who you are? Again, films. You know, we've had Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise opening a film. You know, personalities. I mean, the problem is, you know, does the industry have heroes like this? I mean, you know, do we have people who've like you know, a stunning career, who maybe set up a chain of stores, instrumental in a world-famous video game character, courted by the Japanese industry, got an MBA? I mean, we just don't have people like. Well, okay, we do have an idea, but it's all about branding. That's the thing, and you know, it's fine to a limited degree, and frankly, I just don't know how Igor does it. But the thing is about communication. It is about communicating with people, and Web 2 doesn't help, because ultimately, you're always trying to talk to people, and when it expands to a certain degree, you're not talking to them; they're talking to each other, and they're not talking to you; they're talking about you. That's just not always the good things. So I'm skipping for time now. So really, it's fine to live in a world without publishers, and I really urge you to vote for the other side if you think you know it all and you can do everything. If you look like Tom Cruise or Ian Livingstone, because it's pretty much the same deal. And if you aspire to do all those other jobs, such as cleaning the toilets. But if not, if you just want to focus on creating great games, vote for us.
Thank you very much. And back in the red corner, Igor.
All right, so you heard from me before, and you know where I stand. And let's pick apart some of those comments you made. Cleaning toilets? Yeah, I don't want to do it. But do I want to pay 80% of my earnings for them to clean my toilets? No, thank you. You know, Apple takes 30% of what I make. I am very happy to give them that money, because without them, I would not be able to do anything.
What if they wanted 80%? They suddenly decided to change their mind.
That's way more money to me than I would be able to make without them. They bring clear value. Publishers do not. 80% to clean the toilets, no thank you. About those unpleasant tasks, how unpleasant it is to actually talk to the people who are playing your game, who are actually giving you good suggestions on what works, what doesn't. What you can do in the next update. Love it. Do kids want to talk to you? You should have seen a face this morning of Sean's son when Sean said, I was the maker of Doodle Jump. You are the rock star to them. The developer